So welcome, my friends. Nice to be live. Nice to be alive and live, and sharing this lovely ongoing practice with you. Sometimes when I look back and I look forward, I just realize that practicing yoga is has such a just such an incredible depth when we just really receive it and integrate it into our lives, and not have sort of areas that we think we need to get to or improve, or goals or agendas, but just it's just like any other really healthy part of our life. We just keep moving into the systems and exploring them, physically, and also just the self inquiry that yoga offers. So it's lovely just to relax about that, and just allow the yoga to be really a very kind of just natural, organic part of our life. It's just uh, just establishing, or continuing to establish a very intimate relationship with our own bodies. So let's just, whether you're lying down already or sitting up, let's just take a few moments of just to allow ourselves to drift and to cultivate a sense of stillness. All arising things are passing things. Now yoga. Good. So I would like to begin with a little bit of pressure into the low back. What else is new? But not so much that it's going to be a full deep, I need to focus and concentrate on a backward bend. So I'm going to recommend the large bolster. And if you don't have the large bolster, then we can also do it with some pillows. So if you're using the large bolster, if you have one, and this is for this particular backward bend, it's worth it for the large bolster, because it just fits in there so well. And if this is not allowing you that equilibrium where you can indeed rest and relax for the beginning of class, then just sit up on a little blanket or a small pillow. But I would like you to just tuck it in, really tuck it in so it doesn't slide. So there's no gap here between the bolster and the lumbar area. And then just settle down into it. And you'll just feel it compress, and as you bring it, especially as you bring the upper body down. And then if you're able to let the legs relax out, that would be good too. So again, we just want the whole torso supported with this bit of compression in the lower back. If indeed you do not have one of these lovely large bolsters, then just build something with the pillows, but again, with the idea in mind that we want the torso supported. So I already tried this, and I could almost not tell the difference between the bolster, because you want to do the same thing. We want to then, sort of tuck your pillows in and keep the buttocks on the floor. Yeah, so I'm definitely getting some compression there. So, work with your pillows. May want to fold a blanket, but again, nice to have the head, the neck, the shoulders, and the whole torso supported. So certainly, yes, you're feeling something at the level, the sort of the spectrum of compression that your back can tolerate, but at the same time, it's not going to take much of your focus, and you can also relax and kind of drift inward. So let's start with that. And always, feel free to modify, intensify, withdraw, take a rest. One of the luxuries of having the 2 hours and putting the time aside is that you can really explore your body. So, it is nice sometimes to have the discipline of someone sharing different positions and how long we hold in offering, my version of the teachings. But at the same time, your body will always guide you. So, use the class to have this sense of, inner exploration. And oftentimes, just simply arriving into your own, personal presence can take some time. So, let the energy of the mind start to loosen. Allow yourself to drift from any, specific areas of discomfort or contraction in the body, and allow yourself to drift towards the, not only the periphery of the body, but also, deep inside the body. So we're feeling the fullness of the physicality and the sensations. And also knowing that, the the breath is just an incredible catalyst, but it's also an incredible invitation and an incredible intelligence. But it's not the kind of intelligence that we use during the day. We don't need the kind of strength, the kind of focus, the kind of intelligence that we use during the day. So listening to your breath actually requires a very different and new kind of intelligence. It's not aggressive. It doesn't impose. It's very present. It allows you to watch. It allows you to witness. So at any level, just start to make that contact with the intelligence of your breathing. And since we are certainly leaning into the qualities of yin, allow yourself to feel the emptiness of the exhalation. And this is very, very subtle. It's something that we don't even really do. We're not doing the end of the exhalation here. It's too subtle for that. We're really just welcoming the emptiness of the exhalation, accepting the emptiness of the exhalation, and really just receiving. So there's a lot of this uh, relaxation of receptivity. So exhaling very slowly and allowing your attention to settle on total emptiness. Inhaling very slowly, and allow your attention to settle on total absorption. Exhaling into emptiness, inhaling into absorption. And again, the moment you begin to try or make some effort or any kind of judgment or energy around the breathing, just let that go. You trust the intelligence of your breathing. So whether you're listening to me or not, or whether you're following this or whether it comes and goes, you are breathing. And much more important to really appreciate the just the subtlety of this. So we're entering into unknown territory with each and every breath. Each and every breath is for the first time. Emptiness and absorption. So this yoga, as I was saying, being very natural and organic to your body. And this is because the yoga is not really interested in the condition of the body, whether you're flexible or not, the relative health of the body. The condition in some ways is irrelevant. It's the relationship to those conditions that the yoga is really interested in. The yoga is understanding that we have a variety of conditions, and not just physically, obviously, our our emotional tone and our psychology, what's going on in the mind. And yoga is saying, let us be able to develop and cultivate and explore relationships to what our experience is, and be able to take a step back from the stories that we've woven into every experience that becomes so so charged, so conditioned. And I think it was on Sunday I was talking about the arising, whatever is arising. If we cannot mess with it, we cannot try to change it, then we will get the gift of what is arising. And this is I'm saying the same thing here. We're just being in relationship to what it is you're experiencing. And again, very gently, just allow that exhalation to feel just incredibly gentle and subtle, and allow it just to flow into a sense of emptiness in your lower belly. And allow the inhalation to be just as slow and gentle, but to feel a fullness and a sense of the entire body absorbing this energy, this prana, this oxygen. So if you're ready, let's just bend the knees and put your feet on the floor and have a little movement. Even though I'm hoping this was relatively moderate to mild, still the fascia just responds. The tightness of the fascia is responding to the compression. So we want to loosen the fascia, the ligaments, the muscle, the flow. So once the feet are on the floor, however your body wants to move intuitively, slowly, to feel safe, to release, so we can then roll off of this. So take your time coming out of it, and then let's lie down and take a rest. So make yourself comfortable, even though I'm hoping we were just resting. I'm going to take a nice rest here. So if you want to pad your pelvis, if you want to elevate your feet, if you want to put a roll onto your neck, or all three of those things, uh, let's just prepare to take a rest after that. And as always, when I share, the invitation is always to, uh, half listen. If something resonates with your body, your heart, just, let it resonate, but there's no need to take mental notes. More important, just to relax. But I'd like to make a distinction actually a couple of distinctions. And one is between this this discomfort that I would say most of us are working with. Yes, yes, we want to explore why my body is uncomfortable. So I want to make a distinction between discomfort, whether it's psychological, emotional, or physical, or even existential, between discomfort and the wounds that we all carry. A deeper wound that can be just an incredibly deep and old contraction. And oftentimes, if we think they're the same thing, we approach the discomfort a certain way, or we approach the wound in a certain way. The way that I am presenting this, what I'm trying to explore is that the discomfort that we feel is the way that the wound signals us, the way that the wound gives us information. And so, in a very broad sense, and I'm just going to take a very uh, broad stroke here so we can really settle into what it is that the yoga is that we're doing is and I'm sure there are other modalities, but to look at the modality of a spiritual practice. So spiritual practice, if we're feeling the wound, if we're feeling the contraction and the density of the wound, spiritual practice allows us to just go to simply, I am pure awareness. Yes, and feel that, because this is what you are. And the pure awareness, this would be the masculine approach. The feminine approach would be, I am pure love. Same thing. So whether you're feeling this inner masculine, this inner feminine, it doesn't matter. But if we're feeling the wound and we're getting the signals of the discomfort, we can simply relax, calm the mind, calm the body, and just simply know, a direct knowing of, I am pure awareness. I am pure love. That's our spiritual practice. Now, what's interesting about this is not going to undo, this is not going to take the wound away. The wound will still be there, but it can give us a reprieve, and it can also give us a space to have insight. When we move into the yoga, so the yoga, we can feel the same wound. We can feel the density and the contraction of the wound. And certainly the working with the body, with the hatha yoga, we're getting plenty of signals. We're getting plenty of sensation of tightness, sensation of discomfort, of misalignment. So at the level of yoga, when we open our practice of yoga, we approach the wound to actually feel it, to feel the sensory fabric of it, to breathe into it, to soften the breath, to lean into it, to explore, to invite the discomfort to be present, to allow the wound to communicate at this sensory somatic level. And so this is why we want to cultivate so much relaxation, so much safety, so much rest in our hatha yoga practice, so we don't uh, tighten, we don't contract something that's contracted even more, that we give the density room to breathe, we give the density room to communicate. We have this dance between discomfort and the wound, discomfort and the density, and how we lean into the body, lean away from the body, soften the breath into it, relax the breath out of it. So this is our yoga. And then oftentimes this wound will be so incredibly tight. So the tightness, and it's sort of like if you're laying in bed and there's anxiety and you're like, oh, I can't, like, that there's no way we can bring it into an openness and a relaxation of yoga. So this is when we would then evoke a therapy. If it's physical, a physical therapy. If it's emotional, psychological, a somatic therapy, a cognitive therapy, a behavioral therapy. And so the therapy then allows us to see where it is we need to loosen a bit, start to loosen a bit. We feel safe, we approach the contraction. And then certainly we allow these modalities, the spiritual practice, the yoga, and the therapy to weave in and out of each other. But sometimes it's nice to see that we can also separate them. We can have our spiritual practice and just know I'm pure love, I'm pure awareness. Very obvious. This is our samadhi. And it gives us a reprieve and gives us a way to identify where we get to simply transcend it all. Incredible. The yoga then gives us a practical way to work with the physicality, the intelligence of the breath, ease in, ease out. And then the therapy gives us a way to assess the wound at a level that the spiritual practice and the yoga can't really assess. So it's good to know what we're doing when. And this is the beautiful thing about a simple yoga pose, is that sometimes we want to withdraw from the physical tightness and we might just need to break down and cry, or we might start to laugh from the belly and feel sort of a therapeutic release. Sometimes the yoga pose, everything just melts away, and it's it's just the gift of pure awareness, the gift of being in pure love. Spiritual practice, yoga, therapy. Okay, so let's come on up, please, lest I just keep chatting for the whole class. Lord knows we wouldn't want that. So let's see. Yes, bolster or some blankets maybe for this first thing. Just have them nearby. Yes, definitely have them nearby. And what we're going to do is we're going to extend the left leg out, and you can extend it front. I just want to show you something on an angle. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bend the right knee back. Yes. So don't worry about this. If this is too much for your knee, I'm going to kind of work an alternative into it. But what I'm going to suggest at first is I'm going to suggest from this position to come forward. So this would be a half saddle position forward. Yes. So we'll just come forward here for a while. If indeed this is too much for the knee, I understand, you can open it up a bit. This takes us in the realm of the half frog and starts to work on the hips. Yeah. And you may feel going off to the left. If that's the case, put your bolstering to the left so you can rest on it. And also at some point, I'm going to suggest we just do that. So I'm going to suggest from the forward bend, just so you know it, you can move at your pace either. So coming forward, I'm going to suggest at some point we do open this right leg back a bit, then turn it into this half frog position. Of course, I'm coming towards the center here, but depending on, I don't know your hips that well. I'd like to get to know your hips better, but you put the bolster on the left here or on the right if you need the support, if your hips are tweaking you off to the left. Yeah. And then what we're going to do is we'll bring it back in and we're going to come into a backward bend. So this is where I'm also suggesting having your bolster or some pillows. All of the work we do with the back of the leg, the hamstring, very, very beneficial also to work into the quadriceps. So you can use the bolster to support this backward bend. Yeah. And if you don't need the bolster, it's perfectly okay, especially if it's tight. If we're coming down and the knee wants to come up, yeah, let it come up, it's fine. And then over time, it may relax back down. If this backward bend is too problematic for you or you don't feel safe, just simply bend the knee on the inside of the left leg and put a little a little roll under the back so you still get the backward bend. So you're still getting the backward bend and you're still getting a little bit of the knee bend, but certainly not with the intensity of having it bent back like that. And one more quick note, don't think that you need to keep this ankle aligned with the knee in the way that I have it. It's your ankle and it may need to flare out or you may need to open it a bit. So, once you're coming back, that will be revealed. But this is really a powerful position for opening that right quadricep. So let's start with the left leg extended out, the right knee bent back. And unless you can't start this way, then you can begin opening it. But if you can, this would be great. And then relax the lower back and just start to drift forward. And if you need the bolster here as well, fine. You use any support that you need so you can kind of ease into this, this density. And as you're settling into this, let me just, rewind a bit for just a bit more clarity. I do understand that I was being very vague using this word, a wound. So discomfort, pain, we can understand very well because we all have the experience of it. I intentionally being vague about this idea of a wound because I don't really know what it is. We don't really know what it is until we approach it. And this is why we don't want to assume that the discomfort is the wound or that the discomfort has a linear connection to the wound. Whether this is therapy, yoga, or spiritual practice, the wound is a holding of the body, an imprinting of the body, of energies that have been tightening, misaligning, blocking, just a density. So this is why I opened up the modalities, because often in therapy, we want some clear imagery. We want to have an understanding, yes, an intellectual understanding, somatic understanding. The yoga, not important. We don't even want to understand it. We want to feel it. We want to go into the fabric of the visceral. And the spiritual practice, we don't really care because we understand that we just are. We are the open, spacious, brilliant awareness of love. So just assess how you're feeling here. If you do have the knee bent in this this forward bend in the half saddle forward, you want to stay here, feel free to do that. This is where I would invite you, if you'd like, to come on up and open that leg back a little bit. Yeah. And then you'll see the more you open it back and open that knee, you'll see the relationship to the hips, and it may not be as easy to come forward. You may want to put something over onto the left side. So again, just use these, these geometrical shapes to kind of explore what your body's feeling moment to moment. So the Hatha Yoga then becomes a very, very powerful place to check in. So nothing wrong with making mental notes along the way. So using the intelligence and the information and the feedback of the discomfort, we may get a little closer to that contraction and the density of a wound, and we may make a note. We may get a bit of a peripheral insight that I may want to explore that therapeutically, or I may want to check in with my spiritual practice and make sure that it hasn't just turned into something metaphorical. So it's just a lovely place to just organically trust your body, and then it has this incredible depth of communicating and connectivity. Good. So if you have the right leg back there, let's bring it back in if you'd like. So bring it back into where it was bent if you're able to do that. And we'll stay forward for just a little bit longer here. So I just want to return to hopefully where you were. Okay, so let's come on up from here. And here's where you need to make a few choices. So if you're not sure, a little fearful around the right knee about going back, and then just allow it to come forward. And then, like I said, put a small roll in your lower back so you get the backward bend. If you're able to go back or you want to explore, and you can use as many pillows and bolsters as you need, a combination or one or the other, to get the height just right. So it is worth it if you want to explore a little bit to feel where that knee, quadricep, hip intersect, so you can just feel it like, oh yeah, there's some tightness there, but I feel safe enough to relax into it. That's always our goal. Or if you're wanting to or have the accessibility to go down without the support, go to the forearms first, obviously, see if it's going to want to come up or not. It's perfectly okay if it does. And then just relax down on the floor without any additional support. If the ankle feels like it's not at the right angle, you can just let it go where it would naturally go. And then we'll come into this backward bend. And certainly I am, oversimplifying the spiritual practice, but it's a lovely place to start. It's accessible, and we can verify it with our own sense of experience when we allow the energy of the mind to relax, when we can step back and witness the body and our feelings, and just simply be, just the beingness of our presence, the I amness of pure awareness, the I amness of pure love. And certainly we can go deeper, more expansive, and explore. But what a lovely place to begin. And I do believe that the best place to explore the teachings of the discomfort in whichever one of these paths we're drawn to is to always begin in quiet simplicity. A quiet simplicity. Let go and relax any attachments to thoughts, body images, a sense of a self. And allow yourself to completely rest and become absorbed in your breath. So let's begin to think about releasing this right leg. I think one of the best ways to do it is to just simply start leaning over to the left. So do make sure your weight is supported going to the left. And when you can start to slowly let it release, just let it release. If you're up on some bolstering, keep going till you're off the bolstering. If you're not on some bolstering, once that right leg is released, just come back flat on your back and just relax it out. Oftentimes, some oohs and ahs may be very appropriate here. These quadriceps just tighten up so much. And so we won't take a lengthy rest. We're gonna just do an interlude before we do the other side. So I call it an interlude. We'll see what your lower back thinks about that description. But what I'm gonna suggest to do is to take a blanket and roll it up so it has a little bit of firmness to it. So roll it up pretty tight. And I'm just suggesting that so it doesn't kind of turn into some folds. So we want the roll. And then, I don't know, I can't tell you how much to roll it up. It depends on how you're feeling in the lower back. And you know that we hold these things. So I could go all the way with this, but I suspect it would be just a little too much. So I just unroll it a bit. And then obviously you can always adjust once you're into it. Shouldn't need anything for the head. So this is very simple. We're just gonna sit in front of this with the roll going sideways. And then again, as always, when we enter into a backward bend with great caution. And so take some time here, see how it's feeling back there, a lot going on. Keep the feet on the floor, let the upper body relax down. Another check in here. This is where you may want to unroll or roll a little bit more. And if all is good there, then let the legs relax out. So now, a little different from the first one where I was suggesting, moderate, more on the mild side so we can completely relax. Now feel free to add some compression based on what your lower back can handle. So what you feel is just the right amount to really compress in so that compression can start to work into it, the compression, listening, feeling it. Yeah. Okay, so just relax over something into the lower back. And one of the distinctions that you can begin to explore, and at least in my own practice, this has been just an incredibly a powerful exploration. So we're encouraged to, and many of our techniques of this approach of yoga is to rest and to relax. And at the purely physical level, the level of the body, the sensations, this seems rather self-evident. But most of us also understand that if we're not relaxing our thinking process, if we're not relaxing the energy of the mind, then we're not truly relaxed. Yes, and we can verify this when we have something on our mind and we try to, take a nap or go to sleep. So what we're really trying to open up is, just as we're opening up a relationship with the joints and the muscles and the fascia, is we're trying to open up space in this exploration of thinking. So being without thought is kind of unrealistic. It's not really what the teachings mean. It doesn't mean that we have no thoughts at all. It simply means that a thought is not being used as a basis for our identity. We don't get entangled with it. We don't think it's who we are. And that allows us more to see a thought as just energy of the mind. We can feel energy in the body. We can feel energy when we get emotionally stimulated. So, energy of the mind. But also to see that these thoughts, this energy of the mind, they're all self arising. We're not generating them. They come from nothing, they arise, and then they just liberate themselves and go back to where they came from. It's such an incredible cycle to begin to observe. And once we allow that, then we can relax the energy of the mind. We relax the energy of the heart. We relax the energy of the body. And then we're in this, this state of just being with our essence, just being with our presence. And then we get to watch this and we get to explore this and cultivate this and examine this. So don't worry, thoughts come and go. It doesn't matter. They're not good thoughts, they're not bad thoughts. We don't need to judge them. They're the thought, the thinking process is self-arising and it is self-liberating. So let us stay in the backward bend a little bit longer, but let's bend the knees and put the feet on the floor. And I'd like you to just at first just allow the knees to slowly go back and forth, very slowly. You're just kind of feeling the twist here. Obviously, it's going to be a little different if the back was flat on the floor. I don't need to tell you that, but as you're going back and forth, just kind of note where you might want to rest, which side first. So for me, it's obvious I have a much more open side and I have a side that's a little tighter. It doesn't matter, but I'm just going to invite you to make that observation. And then the next time the knees go to either one, then just let them rest there. So both knees will just go either to your more open side or your tighter side. You're free to adjust the feet in any way that feels good for this twist. We won't be here for a really long time because of that roll in the lower back, but just let's be here for a bit. Good. So once again, let's move those knees side to side. So whatever side you're on, we'll go back and forth, back and forth. And it would be very obvious to just go to the other side, and I think that's usually the thing to do. But if you wanted to go back where you were, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. So this is where you're just assessing one side a little bit more open, the side you've been on, one side a little tighter, the side you've been on. And then the next pass, whichever you decide, let's let the knees either go back to where they were or go to the other side. And again, let's let the knees go side to side, nice and slowly, not even windshield wipers. This would be way too slow for windshield wipers. This is just a nice sort of wave, a weaving back and forth, a leaning in, leaning out, and just feeling it. And then bring the knees back to straight, keep the feet on the floor. And two things, you can either elevate your hips if you'd like to do this and put them up the back of the pelvis up on this roll, is to begin to release and soften. Or if you just want to roll out of it, just nice and slowly support yourself and just roll out of it. So either way, we're going to remove that roll from the lower back. And let's just take a bit of a rest here. We still want to continue with the forward bend on the other side. So, but I think a little rest here because this lumbar area can be a little, oh, I don't know, a little tight sometimes. And one of the reasons that I bring up this approach to these primal wounds uh, is because I think that oftentimes if we just pick one approach and we pick an approach with the intention of removing the wound, I think this can be very challenging because the more I really contemplate this, I don't think we actually need or sometimes even want to remove the wound completely. I'm not even sure it's possible. I think what we want to do is we want to uh, loosen its contraction a bit, not be afraid of it, be able to listen to it, but also let it inform parts of our life. Let it inform our art and not have to separate it, not have to judge it, not have to think like, wow, I have this wound I've been carrying around. It's a bad part. I need to get rid of it. I need to cover it over. I need to wish it wasn't there. So if we just pick a modality and the modality is to remove this part of ourself, I think that's worth questioning. I think we want to have therapy, yoga, spiritual practice to be able to explore these deeper contractions, these densities in our body, in our heart, in our mind. So then we feel okay about expressing them. And that expression can then be our art, it can be just the expression of life. So we have a relationship with our wounds that then becomes healthy, if you will. And it just allows, I think, us to be more human, to expand the parameters of our dance with ourself and with each other and with life itself, without having to judge and without having to think that there's a series of steps we have to take to be whole. The understanding from, I think, yoga and therapy and spiritual practice is that we all already whole. We're already whole. We can relax in that wholeness and then explore these parts, explore the parts that put together the fabric of the wholeness. So we're exploring these threads, but the fabric is us, that is whole, that is not separate from life or love or pure awareness. Okay. Uh, let's come on up. And if I do remember correctly, we're going to put the right leg out this time and bend this left knee back. So everything applies that I said to the other side. Yeah. If this is problematic, you can open it up right from the beginning a bit, but we'll get there. We're going to come into a forward bend with the right leg out, the left leg bent back. You can use any of the bolsters that you have, supports that you have to come forward. I'm going to suggest at some point we open this leg, but if you want to do it sooner, feel free to do it sooner, and then we'll try to come back this way. And we'll just play with this for a bit before we enter into the backward bend. Good. So again, if you just have this knee folded back in this straightforward half saddle, you want to stay there, perfectly fine. If you want to come up and open it out a bit, yeah, so I'm opening the knee, and I'm also pushing the leg in back of me. Yeah, so the hips torquing a bit. My suggestion was to put bolstering where you need it, maybe on the right side here, maybe on the inside of the right leg, or if you're able to just come down to the forearms or wherever. So we'll just play with this for a little bit. If at any time the shape itself becomes distracting, it's always okay to, open it up a bit. You're working with a skeletal system that is quite unique to you. You're working with layers of tension that is very unique to you. So we just take these shapes as just suggestions, and we fit our body into the suggestion. We suggest it to the body, and then we see. Sometimes yes, sometimes maybe, sometimes we're not sure, sometimes no. So it doesn't matter that we're getting to specific areas, just matters that we're feeling. It matters that we're, again, it's not the conditions we're that interested in, but the relationship to what we're feeling, the relationship to the conditions. So if you do have this, what I'm calling this half frog position, you can bring it back into where it was or not if you want to stay there. So we just take this left leg and bring it back in. So we're in that half saddle, and we'll stay forward though. So let your lower back round and soft and just come forward again for a bit longer here before we go back. Okay, so let's emerge here. Let's roll up. And let's bring it to the backward bend. And again, remember, if it doesn't feel safe, if this backward bend is not accessible to you, we'll just bring this left leg on the inside, but do put a little something under the lower back so you get both. If you're able to explore this, you're welcome to explore it without any bolstering or with as much bolstering as you need to bring the more, obviously, the more we bring the back up, the more it relieves and lessens the compression in the knee, particularly the knee and the quadricep, but the hip a little bit as well. So, and also, the further we go back, there's definitely some pulling on the psoas here. It's a tricky one to, in this position, to feel, but it's in there. Usually the psoas is connected to something that we're doing, so. And just relax back and make this work for you, get comfortable. If we, continually return to yoga as union, yoga as a sense of wholeness and unification, completeness, then we almost by necessity need to cultivate a comfort with paradox. Yes, if there's only awareness and appearance comes and goes, then to be able to sit with that paradox can be very grounding. And I also think a very interesting paradox to sit with is the paradox of simplicity and complexity. So if we become very sensitive and very quiet, we can see that when we sit with an experience of just utter simplicity, it already has the seeds of complexity in it. And when we contemplate the utter complexity of things, again, the seeds of simplicity are already sown. So this is one of the, if not the primary function of our yoga, is to be able to sit with a very natural sense of equanimity and let these things arise. Let the appearances arise and let the appearances fade. Let the feeling of simplicity arise, and let the feeling of complexity unfold from that. And this naturally takes us to that place of spiritual practice. It's so instantaneous. I am a pure awareness. I am pure love. Okay, so let's start to wiggle out of this one. What I was recommending is to just start to lean over to the right side. And I think I mentioned moans and groans are okay. Welcome. I can't hear them. So, and if you're on the bolster, roll off the bolster. You got the roll under your back, remove everything, and let's come to a place of resting. So let's take a rest. Yeah, let's take a rest before we move on from this. In the Hindu cosmology, where the seeds of yoga first began to blossom, they have such an incredibly beautiful concept of Maya. It would roughly translates as illusion, but not in the same way that we think about it in the West. That Maya is the teacher and the teaching. She is the Maya is the she's the Buddha, she's the Jesus, she's the Mohammed, she's the Guru, and you know whatever you're sure is not Maya is definitely Maya. So it's a in a way it's a playful concept. It's a concept of beginning to look at these appearances, look at the reality of life almost as a game, that things are appearing and disappearing and appearing and disappearing, and we can get caught in that. Yes, and we can think that the guru is real and the teacher is other than ourself. So this is why yoga invites us to the ground of being. So the ground of being, it sounds very grounded and it sounds solid, but it's not solid at all. It's just simply awareness. It's simply consciousness, presence, divine presence, if you will. And then from there, from that vantage point, from that reality, we get to watch the play of Maya. We get to watch the self-arising thoughts and the self-liberating thoughts. Okay, so let's come on up. Let's come on up. Yes, yes, yes. And I don't want to start with just a forward bend with the legs forward. And then we're going to kind of fold it in and we're going to fold it back out. So with this particular position, hip width distance is going to be a little bit different for everyone. The most important thing is to let the hips relax. So let the weight of the feet splay the hips open, let the legs relax. So just approximately hip width distance, usually a little wider than narrower, because if you bring them in, the hips are going to internally rotate and tighten. So I just like to have some space for them. You can do this with or without some knee support, either the small bolster or that rolled blanket we used earlier. So sometimes this is nice depending on how the hamstrings are. So we work the quadriceps and now we're going to go underneath in addition to the lower back. So with or without some under the knee support. And again, let yourself descend in very slowly. There's no rush. There's no final position. It's just what your body needs moment to moment. And oftentimes just coming in at about, 30-40% of your depth is very wise, because then you can see that the body needs to explore something there before it goes deeper. So we don't use depth as any gauge except the sensory feedback that you're receiving. So use the bolsters if you need to hover somewhere or stay somewhere, or make sure you have support on your arms or forearms. Make sure that lower back is nice and soft and unengaged and rounded. And there's no element of trying to stretch forward to start to engage those muscles. I just read a book called Quantum Enigma, and every once in a while I like to see what the current state of the quantum physicists are into, because they've been a long time in catching up with the yogis. So to see if they're able to find anything, anything in terms of something solid or matter, and no, they have not. They've not found anything that could be called matter or anything even approaching something solid. So Maya continues to prevail. But they do seem to be getting closer to the intelligence of the yogis in terms of consciousness. And this is where we really always begin our self-inquiry is, am I conscious? What do I mean when I say I am before I add anything onto it, any descriptive label, any activity? I am conscious, I am aware. And so this is where the yogi rests. The yogi doesn't go beyond that. Beyond that is Maya. The purity, the openness, the spaciousness of consciousness is the ground of being of the yogi.
Good. So let us come on up from here. And let's pull it in a little bit. Let's just simply bring the soles of the feet together. And we're going to go back into the forward bend. So here, then again, choice is to do this without support. You'll just obviously weave a bit into the hips. If you want some support, put a few pillows or blankets or bolster under the knees. So this will then obviously support the hip flexors and bring a little bit more concentration into the lower back. Both ways are good. It just depends on how you're feeling. So we're just going to continue same forward bend, just a little bit different configuration of the geometry. So let's again roll up. And I'd like to just keep bringing it in and tightening it up, but I'd like to give you a choice here. So the first choice would be to, from the soles of the feet together, just simply bring the left leg in and then put something substantial in front for height, either the large bolster or a couple of pillows, and place the right leg on top of it. Yeah, so this will be a supported square pose. And again, we'll come forward from here. Lovely to do this. Or if you would like, from the soles of the feet together, bring that left leg under the right leg back towards the right hip, and then cross the right leg over that left leg. So we put ourselves in a bit of a shoelace. Be careful here that with this right hip, you don't sit on this left heel. So get that out of the way. And then same thing, forward bend here. So yeah, pretty much same area, a little different, obviously. So this would just be a personal preference. So either way, we'll come forward either in this, full shoelace position, we'll call it, or the right leg up on some height for a supported square pose. Allow your yoga to be vast, the vastness of the moment. So this moment that we like to talk about and contemplate and think about is very slippery. It's always right here with us, yet we cannot hold on to it. That all we ever really have is just the immediacy of this presence unfolding, this sense of flow. So just as we're talking about our wounds and our discomfort can contract, we have this amazing capacity to contract the moment. But we can also have an amazing capacity to allow the moment to be vast. And this is our yoga. Our yoga is the vastness of the moment. So let's come on up out of here and if you have the leg on the bolster, the right leg on top, undo that. If you're in the right leg on top with the shoelace pose, let's open out both legs. So just open out both legs. Yep. Aye, aye, aye. And we're going to do the other side of that. And as I'm always reminding you, you do not have to be symmetrical. So if you did the supported square on this right leg up and you want to do the shoelace, you can. If you did the shoelace and you want to do supported square, it's interesting to try because once the body starts to absorb the compression and we're in this sort of vagueness of the body, it doesn't really matter. The system is feeling it and responding. So sometimes it's interesting to explore being asymmetrical in that way. But either way, what we're going to do is we're going to do the other side or not, or switch it up. Well, no, we're going to do the other side, but you can switch it up how you do it. So it would be the left leg on top if you're doing this supported position, the supported square. Yeah. And if you're not doing that, and you're choosing the other one, then we'll keep that left leg on top and we'll bring the right leg under, the left leg up and over. On this side with that left hip, try not to sit on that right heel. You can always like come forward a bit and tighten up the knees or align the knees. It'll tighten up the hips a bit. And same thing here, always good to really soften the lower back. I do prefer some support out front so I can relax the shoulders and really reassure my hips that I'm going to be very sensitive. So depending on how contracted and misaligned and tight your hips are, good to reassure them so you can ease in and they begin to understand that this compression it's therapeutic. It's not going to cause injury. It's not punitive. It's just going to start to release over time. So this is why we want to, the whole of the physical aspect of this practice is to first to feel the patterns of your body. You feel these inner patterns of flow and blockage and compression and release, and then simply compress and listen. And it's from the listening that you will make adjustments, that you will be invited to go deeper, be invited to withdraw. So, but first we want to really listen. What is it? How do I apply it? And then continue that listening. So let us come on up. And I want to come full circle, pretty much. I'm going to give you two choices here. So what I would like to do, so instead of resting, we're going to go right into this. So open the legs out and wiggle and wobble a little bit and sway it here. So we're good. So the first suggestion, and it really, again, is always up to how you're feeling in the lower back. It's really nice. I do love to revisit poses that I've done earlier in the practice to kind of see if anything has shifted. But the way that we started is we started with something pressed into the lower back, so the whole torso is supported. So if you'd like to come back to that, I think that would be a good thing. Yeah, the buttocks on the floor, and if you don't have this bolster, I suggested some pillows and blankets just to relax over this, and the legs just out. Yeah. If you're feeling particularly to deepen this, because we did the half saddle earlier, if you remember, how could you forget? You could use the same bolstering or a little bit more. You could always wedge this up higher, but you could use the same bolstering and bend both knees. Yeah, so this is a very deep backward bend for us. So bending both knees if you would like to, and then tuck it in the same way. So this obviously is going to go back to the quadriceps, the psoas, the hips, and the knees, but and that lower back. Ay, ay, ay. So you could do this with or without the bolster if you're feeling like you just want to go into full saddle. If you're ready for that, this is your choice. Or you could do it supported, and like I said, you could bring it up, or you can just come right back to where we started and close the circle with a nice, just a nice supportive backward bend, and just kind of notice if anything feels any different. So either one of those choices, and support them in any way that you need to. As you settle in, going back to the sensitivity, the subtlety of your breathing, feeling just how incredibly subtle this exhale breath is, this out breath, that it's a certain point where you're no longer doing it, you're just receiving it. So we're very gently breathing out and bringing the awareness to total emptiness, and very slowly breathing in and bringing your awareness to total absorption.
think woven into the modalities of exploration of therapy and yoga and spiritual practice, that the deepest practice, the really the most profound way that we practice is with deep relaxation, gratitude, and trust. So we don't have to find our way. We don't have to go from here to there. We can just rest where we are. We can allow the experiences that are arising to be as they are, and see that the guidance and the wisdom, the intelligence and the safety is inherent. It's inherent in our beingness. And this is the trust. When we really begin to trust that from a place of relaxation, we can just be permeated with gratitude. And then how beautiful that we can sit as pure awareness. We can sit as pure love. We can open up a space of yoga to feel the sense of creativity coming from every fiber, every cell of our being to express itself. And we can take the incredible power and creativity of the mind and explore the depths of our being. Profound relaxation, deep gratitude, and trust. This is our practice. If you do have your knees bent back and you're struggling in any way, if it's feeling like it's reaching some kind of vibratory edge that's in the least bit distracting, I would suggest to open the knees out and just continue the backward bend with the legs open, so we can close with the lower back feeling very relaxed. So we really do have that sense of full circle. I am fluid and supple. I am relaxed and centered. I am healthy and healing. I am youthful and lighthearted. So let's begin to slowly find our way out of this if you're still in it. Obviously, if your knees are bent back, we want to release them. The legs are straight out. Always good to have the feet stable on the floor before we roll out. Even if it's very mild, it's always good to be cautious coming out, move slowly, sort of just letting the body unwind a bit. And then as you find your way out of this, you can find a position of relaxation if you'd like, or you can sit up and we'll take a few moments and close our practice. Let us take this moment to be grateful and appreciative for this beautiful, fragile, transient thing we call life. Namaste.